All right. So Zip. So you're from E-Town, Kentucky. On your high school team, you had a pretty talented high school team. Your quarterback was Chris Todd, who, if I'm not mistaken, originally signed with Texas Tech,
That's
and
right.
then played for Mike Leach. And then after Leach got canned, transferred to Auburn. He was All SEC in 2009. Your other teammate was Brandon Deardrick, who went to Alabama, and he's playing for the Saints these days.
Right.
You yourself, you're a multi-year starter at Kentucky in the SEC. So I guess my first question is, did you guys ever lose a game in high school? But then secondly, did you have any idea at the time growing up that those guys, the kind of success you would each have?
It was funny. We actually never all played together till we were sophomores in high school. Like I said, I moved to E-Town in fifth grade. So me and Brandon played middle school ball together, and then Chris moved in our sophomore year. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic. And I think we all had the goals of, obviously playing college football and playing at a high level and hopefully making it to the NFL. But when you're that young, and you're from the state of Kentucky where there's not a ton of football talent coming out, you don't really know. But we all worked to push each other and just really try to see how far we could take it. So it's pretty neat to see that, at one time we all ended up in the SEC, and Brandon's, working on his fifth or sixth year in the NFL, and me and Chris went on to have, pretty solid college careers. So it's pretty neat, and it's kind of crazy thinking back. You're 14, 15, 16 years old, that all it was dreams, and you didn't really quite know what it was going to take to get there. But it was fun, the whole process and having those guys to go through it with.
Yeah, I guess you guys got your 10-year high school anniversary coming up, right?
We do. It's funny you say that. I think it's actually going to be in October. I can't go. I'm coaching ball and then have a wedding. But we actually all got together this summer. One of our high school teammates kind of set it up. So just about a month ago, we all got together, had 16, 17 guys off our team that, played in the state final. And so it was great, man. And as soon as you get together, it all goes back to the high school, locker room memories, jokes, and, guys being guys and things like that. But I try to tell the high school kids I coach now, man, there's no greater time to be an athlete and play sports, because rarely do you ever look back and say, you remember when we were sitting in English class and whatever. It's always the memories, from the field, the locker room, the hours you spent, working out, bleeding together, sweating together, crying together, and that's what it's all about. So it's great to see all those guys, and hoping Brandon continues his success. He actually just signed with the Houston Texans. So, hopefully he's doing well. They got training camp getting ready to start. So it's great, man, and we're all still in touch to this day.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. That's really cool. Okay, so Keith, this podcast theme is about the offensive line, and it's the post you and Zip wrote last week that I thought was really, really good stuff. I want to ask you something that we didn't really talk about too much in the post, and that's about the position coach, John Schlarman. When initially his hire was announced, it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I basically thought he came on board because Stoops gave Neil Brown wide latitude to fill his offensive staff, which is probably pretty standard, I would think, in most college cases. But Keith, in your mind, has Schlarman justified his hire in terms of player development, recruiting, etc.?
I think it's still a little bit to be determined, but he's off to a great start, in my opinion. I mean, Darian Miller last year, while he didn't get drafted, he's in an NFL camp excuse me, sorry about that. He's in a NFL camp, and with the swindle coming up, he's obviously going to be an all-conference lineman and probably a draft pick. I've been impressed with his recruiting, really. He was the primary on Drake Jackson and Cash Daniel, and he also was in with Landon Young and Logan Stenberg, Ramsey Myers, who I think is going to have a strong year. He came on strong last season and kind of took the guard position by a stranglehold, and I think he's going to have a nice year. He also was the primary for Javonte Stallings, he's going to be a heck of a talent. I mean, he redshirted last year, but he's going to be in the rotation this year. So I think it's still a little to be determined. However, with the coup that's coming in next season for the linemen, along with Marcellus Jones, we'll know in 2 years if it was justified or not. But I think he's headed down that path of it.
Yeah. So, Zip, Kentucky runs a zone blocking scheme. This kind of started when Neil Brown brought the air raid back to Kentucky. I thought you did a really good job in your post last week contrasting zone and power blocking schemes. And I was wondering, would you be willing to break that down again for us laymen?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Really what you're trying to do with the zone blocking scheme is you're allowing the running back to kind of determine where he wants to go. Like they always used to tell us that, I mean, we're blocking the guy, but we don't know where the running back's going. I mean, he could stay to the play side. He could cut it back. I mean, there's no real determination. So basically what the zone blocking scheme is you're going to be your covered lineman and the uncovered guy outside of him are basically working together, comboing up, to a linebacker. So what you're going to do, you're just trying to really basically get horizontal movement from the defensive line, whereas in your power scheme, you're trying to blow those guys off the line of scrimmage, get vertical movement. This, you're just trying to get horizontal. What we really tried to do was, stretch it, get his head to the outside, and just get him moving. And that way, once you get the D lineman moving, horizontally, the linebackers have to flow, and that gives your running back a chance to really press it play side and then cut back or, whatever he sees. So basically what you're doing is you're on, like I said, a track. So you're stepping about 45 degrees, either right or left, working to stretch that D lineman, keeping your eyes on the linebacker, and just letting, the running back kind of set up your block for you. I mean, they're going to see him, press the front side. That D lineman's going to really, try to play there, and then as soon as he does that, the running back's going to cut off you. So, I mean, it's one of those things you got to trust the guy next to you that, if somebody comes in his track, he's going to pick him up. You also got to know kind of who you're comboing with. If you're going to a linebacker and, your defensive end slants hard inside, you got to know that your guard's going to be there to pick him up. But, I mean, it's a great way to, kind of let running back shine. I mean, there's really no way for them to be wrong until they get tackled. That's what we tell them, So, I mean, you're really stretching those defenders. You're trying to get the linebacker to flow. And then your running back's just being an athlete, sticking his foot in the ground and making a cut when he feels like he's got the opportunity.
So from going off what you just said, it really sounds like to do a zone blocking scheme, the offensive linemen need a lot of reps with each other to learn how to trust each other and communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I was saying, I mean, it's a game of, angles, inches, but, I mean, you're moving 100 miles an hour. So just, understanding how the guy you play against, how he's going to step, how he likes you to set up the combo block, kind of things he struggles with, things he's good at. I mean, it's all about, reps, just getting your footwork down, getting your timing down, and then just kind of getting to the point where you're on the same page that maybe you don't have to necessarily make the call every time. You can just look at each other and know that this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to execute it. But, I mean, all that comes in, your hours in the winter, after working out, when you're conditioning. It comes, in the summer, they're probably doing the heavy now, and then, during fall camp, taking those hundreds of reps. But, I mean, offensive line is a thing. It's just all about reps and, continuity. I mean, it's your goal, obviously, is to, name those 5 starters and let them rep it, all the time. But as we know, injuries happen, things like that. But the more you work together and are able to trust that guy and kind of know what he's doing, know what he's thinking, know what his strengths and weaknesses are, the better that offensive line is going to be.
Right, and it also sounds like it doesn't matter if the team you're playing against is a 5-man front or a 4-man front or a 3-man front. The power blocking or zone blocking, not one is better than the other in terms of the scheme in front of you, right?
Right. I mean, it really truly doesn't matter. That's kind of the beauty of the zone scheme. I mean, it really doesn't matter. You're trying to just basically, whoever it is, get horizontal movement and you'll climb to the linebacker. Now, the power scheme, a little bit. You're not going to run it probably as much against like a 3-man front or anything like that. But the thing about in the SEC, I mean, you're going to see a multitude of fronts pretty much from every team, every game. So there's not really, a preference or anything like that. There's some things you'd like to see on the D-line, like when you're running power, you love for that play side, defensive tackle to be in a 3 technique. Kind of gives you the best angle and the best way to double team him to the backside linebacker and things like that. But yeah, these are both schemes that you can run against any type of front, any type of team. And really, I mean, it's things you have to do well in the SEC to be competitive.
Okay. So, Zip, I want to talk to you a little bit about Kentucky's recruiting a little bit. So I doubt that you are reading the Kentucky blogs every day. Maybe you are. I just assume you've got better things to do. But I'm sure you watch every game and you follow the news, generally speaking. So I'm sure you're aware that Kentucky right now has some really good commitments on the offensive line. for the 2016 class. And I guess I'm wondering, as like someone who's been through the system like yourself, went on to NFL training camps, what kind of advice would you give those high school kids? You know, they're entering their senior year of high school right now before they come to UK. Like, if you were in their shoes heading into your senior year of high school, knowing everything that you know now, would you make different decisions about, you know, in terms of weight room and nutrition, technique, or is there really not much that they can do until they get on campus?
It's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, the first thing is just, you know, enjoy your final season. I mean, obviously the goal is to win a state championship, and hopefully you're focused on that with your teammates and guys that you've probably been playing with for the last, you know, 6, 7, 8 years. So that's the main goal. Just go out, have fun, you know, just be competitive, do the best you can because, like I said, high school ball, that's one of the last times you get to play just for the love of the game. I mean, there's a lot of great things about the college game and obviously the professional game, but once you take that next step, it's a business. I mean, in terms of, you know, weight room and technique and things like that, I'm sure that they've been in contact with, you know, UK's, you know, coaches and strength staff that I know back when I did it a long time ago, usually what happened, you played your season. If you didn't play, you know, another sport, they would kind of send you a general workout packet, just some exercises, some things they wanted you to be, you know, be able to do, have an understanding of. And when you take your official and your unofficial, you know, they'll talk about nutrition, maybe what weight they want you to be at, you know, ways to get there, things like that. Technique, you know, your coach will probably start giving you just when they come see you, just little things, you know, whether it be stance, start, hand placement, things like that. So there's not a ton you can do, but there's definitely, you know, some tools that you can pick up and some things to get ready for. But, I mean, really they just got to come in with the understanding that, you know, everybody was the man in high school. And, I mean, it's one of those things where once you take that step to the SEC, you know, you're playing against grown men on a weekly basis. So, I mean, I think it's great. Definitely. I mean, you know, for the program as a whole, just to get the caliber of recruit we're getting, and B, I think it's great for the state of Kentucky. I mean, I know in recruiting a lot of times it's overlooked, but to have, you know, some 4-star offensive line talent from the state and to keep it, you know, in state, you know, at Kentucky is huge for the program. And like I've always told people, I mean, I know that, you know, the program is definitely on the rise and doing a lot of great things, getting a lot of great kids, and I think winning is definitely in their future. But I look back to a lot of, you know, Brooks' best teams, and those offensive lines were heavy with Kentucky kids. And whether or not, you know, I mean, whether that was just coincidence, but I think it meant a lot. You know, a kid growing up in Kentucky, you know, he's always been a Wildcat fan and wants to put that Kentucky across his chest. I mean, it means maybe a little bit more to him, you know. So I think it's great that not only is it top-tier talent, it's in-state talent, and I definitely think these kids will be a huge part of why this program's turned around.
Yeah. All right, so Keith,
yeah.
Kentucky has some issues at offensive tackle this season, just like it did last season too. It's hard to imagine that anyone beats out Jordan Swindell at left tackle, barring some sort of injury. But I guess the question that I want to ask you is, do you think by mid-season Kentucky is starting the true freshman George A.A. at right tackle, and Kyle Meadows is playing that swing tackle that backs up both Swindell and George A.A.? Because right now I think Kyle Meadows seems like he's ahead of George a little bit at the right tackle spot.
He is a little bit, but I really think it may not even be mid-season. Asafo Adaje takes over. The kid's phenomenal. You know, when he came into early enrollment, he should have been an 18-year-old senior in high school, and instead he was going through spring practice and dominating people, really. In April, he was benching 410, cleaning 325, and squatting 600. My guess is under Eric Corum, hell, he might be benching 500 by now and squatting 800. But I think he is a tremendous talent. You know, he's a 4-star recruit. They've got him listed on the depth chart as the backup for both tackle positions. I think really him getting this spring and this summer in, I think it's just a matter of time before he becomes entrenched at the other tackle position and has a phenomenal career for Kentucky.
Well, okay, so let me follow up on that real quickly. And I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think that everything you said is completely logical. What standard would you hold George to this year if he does start? And let's say he's given up some sacks because he's a freshman. His technique's not great yet. Like, how much leeway would you give him in the before, you know, would you defend him on Twitter, for example? Would you say, look, he's a freshman, chill out? Like, where would you, how would you grade him? Would you grade him on a curve?
I think it has to be a consistency play. If he's dominating a guy or getting the job done 8 times out of 10, but the other 2 turn into sacks, it's got to be graded holistically and not just on a couple of bad plays. Now, if he's consistently struggling, if he's getting holding calls, there is a time and place where it gets to be too much and you're too big of a detriment to the team. But if I think if he is performing pretty well for the most part, but he gives up a couple of big plays that are pretty big black eyes, I think that's when he can be defended. But it has to be a consistent effort, a consistent production for that to happen. Otherwise, it is time to say, just stick with this backup. We'll put Meadows back in. You'll still get rotation. It'll just be back down a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. It's good that Meadows is there to compete and be there if called upon. All right, so Zip, there's something I've always been curious about. Someone who didn't play college football, I'm completely oblivious to this. You hear a lot about how players get fatigued as the season wears on. They're getting banged up from August to November. Could you talk a little bit about the wear and tear a season has on a body and like what effect that can have, if any, on the wins and losses columns?
Definitely. I mean, it plays a huge factor, in the meaning, of a whole season. But I used to tell people all the time, basically in the summer you would train, those 8 weeks. You would max out usually about a week or so before camp, and then every once in a while they give you a couple of days off right before you went to camp. But I used to tell people, once you take that first rep of camp, your body is never the same until about August of next year. I mean, it's that serious. It's that much strain and stress on your body. But like I said, you go to camp, you're feeling great. I mean, you go through a month of camp. It's long practices. It's hot. You're doing a lot of hitting. I mean, Coach Brooks was notorious. I mean, he knew we weren't the most talented team, so it was his goal to make us the most physical team. I mean, a lot of these teams nowadays, even with some of the legislation, you can't do the 2-a-days. You can't, have so much contact. But I remember one time being a senior, being a captain, me and Corey Peters, we were done. A couple weeks into camp, we just thought, man, we were beat up. We went to Coach Brooks and said, hey, Coach, just kind of a consensus from the team. We think we're a little beat up. Let's back off. And he looked us right in the eye and just said, I understand where you're coming from, but I think for this team, to be a bold team and whatever, we need a little more toughness. And that's just kind of the way he was. But you've got to think. You get beat up in camp. And then you start playing the games. You get Sundays. You usually come in after a game. You lift. We got Mondays off, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, those are heavy days. You're still doing your inside drill, your team drill, still getting contact there. And then as you go through, 8 straight SEC games, that's tough. You're playing against the best teams in the country, best coaches in the country. That's just a lot of wear and tear on the body. So, it's one of those things where you do your best to recover week in and week out, try to save some guys, some skill guys, some reps here, reps there. Save some feet, save some toes, save a knee. But, as O-line guys, and like I said, it's all about consistency and, getting reps together, just getting, sessions together, inside run, team sessions. So they're always pushing for the big guys to be out there. But, it can definitely take a toll. And when you're talking about a team that, has had some lean years, struggled a little bit with recruiting, lost, 20 or 30-something guys between, the 3 or 4 years before Stoops. It's tough. I remember when I first moved to offensive line, kind of like that spring of my redshirt sophomore year, we had a couple shoulder surgeries, a couple knees, and, some nicks there, here and there. But we went through the spring with 7 linemen. So that, that can really just tear you down. But, it's definitely a grind, for a couple months at a time. And you're just hoping, a lot of times they say, the healthiest team wins. And, that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and I think that's something fans don't recognize. They wonder, why is this team fading in the fourth quarter the last 3 games of the season? And it's like the things you just talked about. Your body wears down.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you get to talk about it. Just think about all the reps the guys taking. guys are pushing themselves to, small injuries. And I mean, there's a difference, between being hurt and being injured. But, yeah, it's tough. And then when you've got, teams like, Alabama and LSU who, they get 24 and 5-star kids a year. And when they turn, when that kid is out or injured or tired, there's another 4-star. I mean, it does make a difference. I mean, I know it's not all about, recruiting stars and things like that. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's all about depth and just trying to do your best to stay healthy.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I have. I think that's a really good spot to end this. I definitely want to appreciate Keith and Zip for joining us to talk about the offensive line. If you haven't read their post from last week, it's in our series preview story thread, so you can just hop in there and find us near the top. And we'll probably do more of these podcasts here in the next few weeks leading up to the season, and I appreciate you listening.